here we go. All right. So, one of the cool things about being involved in magic, a mystery school, a tradition, or any type of exploration of self or reality outside of the mainstream herd is the effect that it has on the rest of your life. Once you get the guts to admit that you're a witch or a sorcerer, a magician, a spirit worker, or whatever word you want to use for somebody who manipulates reality or probability, you start to shine. You got a different glow to you, and it really, really does set you apart from the sheep. Now, there are things on the other side, if you want to operate on this side, that side frame, that notice that. And oftentimes they will get involved and they will start nudging things. And when those things get nudged, they get nudged in directions often to bring you to someone. And you can make friends, you can make casual acquaintances, you can make a type of connection that is more than your normal friendship, or if you're really exciting and unlucky, more than your normal adversary. Thankfully, my guest today is not my adversary. Today I have Tenebrys. And Tenebrys she's kind of got the dream. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous. She's a professional witch and operates almost exclusively in the magical. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and what she does in a moment, because she is sitting right beside me in my little studio, in my little home.
Hello.
Hello. And Tenebrys, tell us your story. Tell us about you.
My name is Tenebrys. I am the store manager at Hearth Wisdom Store here in Texas. But I started out much like many pagans, at least in our community, and that is in a very conservative Christian home. So I grew up in the Church of Christ. From there, we went to Seventh-day Adventist. I was a Pentecostal for a few years until I finally ran into someone at a job that I was working at who was a Norse practitioner, an Odinist, but not the gross kind. I feel like I have to put that qualifier in there.
Always have to. The Norse stuff, yeah.
But he started talking to me about Odin and Freya and the ravens and the runes and just all of this amazing stuff, that I had very little exposure to beyond just, I'm a kid who likes to read, Greek myths and Norse myths and, actually looking at it from a reality type perspective. So from there, I kind of dove headfirst into studying the runes, the Elder Futhark, and, learning what they were all about. I read every book I could get my hands on, started using them in my day-to-day life, just drawing them in random places where they might help, Fehu on the corner of my work papers to help bring in the money, Ansus to, on my hand when I'm studying something to help retain the wisdom and the knowledge, things like that. I discovered crystals and they had their own whole little world. And so I dove into that. I have a tendency to kind of hyperfixate on whatever my interest is. So I dove into that for a little while. And those are each things that I still use in my daily life, even now, 10 years later. But I finally, started hanging out with, some more non-Christian people. And from there, met another fellow witch who helped me find Hearth Wisdom Store in the first place. We were hanging out one day and decided we, needed some witchy supplies. And so found the closest store in our area. And I am now helping to manage that very store.
Nice. And it's funny because, we've talked so much because we've known each other for, God, it's been what, 2-3 years now?
Couple of years at least.
Couple years, yeah. And we first met through Hearth Wisdom.
Yep.
So, and I can definitely say Hearth Wisdom is not paying me in any way to say this, but it's definitely the real deal. It's got a lot of oomph to it without going into any indiscreet details of the magical stuff there. But it is one of those places where you know that you've wandered into someplace special. So you found magic like many of us are lucky enough to do, and you went from hardcore Pentecostal, hell's right underneath us.
Oh yeah, speaking in tongues, the whole nine.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and it's funny. Like so many of us came from that background, and we're fortunate enough that the gods or goddesses, whatever term you want to use, came along and sent somebody to knock us onto a different path. So, what is it like actually literally working in magic for a living, cutting your teeth and making your money and your life based around magic?
I mean, it really literally is the dream. I have, oh goodness, I've had so many jobs that I absolutely hated. And for a while, I was actually working 3 jobs, full time at a factory, part time on the weekends at Hearth Wisdom, and then doing my own home business of just crochet, special orders here and there to pick up some extra pocket money.
Mhm.
But I was doing that enough that it was a job in and of itself. Um, and burnout came so quickly.
Mhm.
Burnout came so quickly. And so, it literally got to a point of I was at my factory job one day and nothing was going right and nobody was able to help and make things go the way that they should. And, machines were breaking down. And I remember texting my boss at Hearth Wisdom store, would it be possible to come on full time? I am done with this place, please. And she made it happen.
Nice.
And that was at least a year ago that I went full time at the shop.
Excellent. And it's kind of funny. There's always that moment, and I tend to think of it as the cosmos reminding us that our heads are too hard.
Oh, mine especially. Yeah.
Little Taurus over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, for myself, it was a similar thing, working a job, going to school, pursuing my degree and everything like that. And just taking on everything that you can. And then it's like a force comes along and just says, oh, look at all these nice, tiny little plans. Be a shame if somebody just knocked them all off the table. And
pretty much.
Yeah, it's funny because we have that metaphor of like, oh my God, does somebody hate me right now? Well, no, it's going to shit because it's an opportunity for you to grow. And that was a very interesting thing that happens to so many of us that get on the path, whatever their version of the path is. So what do you normally use your magic for? What is your preferred art? I think let's put it that way.
Well, I am very eclectic. So I don't, even today, I don't follow just strictly Norse. I mean, in the past year or so, I've started working very closely with Hecate as well, and Greek is very different from Norse in practice.
Yeah.
But I also, candles are one of my favorite things to do. Candle spells, I do at least one a day. Just as my regular practice. I work with crystals a lot. I still work with runes. Most of my sigils these days are rune based. I'm just now starting to branch out on that. But yeah, I've cultivated a daily practice, and it's really helped to have that. I find that my magic is much more ready to my call. Now that I have a daily practice like that, it's much more effective. But it doesn't necessarily look like anybody else's. Like I said, I am very eclectic. I just kind of find a method that works. I use a lot of candles, a lot of crystals, a lot of runes. I've got all kinds of tools, from different traditions that I've kind of incorporated into my daily practice.
Excellent. So, one thing that I've seen a lot of baby witches do, and you're no baby witch by any stretch of the imagination, you've been at this for a while. But one thing I've seen a lot of baby witches do is either forego the materia, and that route's very dangerous. I don't know how many, actually, I don't know how many dozens of baby witches over the past 10, 20 years I've heard fall into the same trap of trying to mentally dominate a spirit through no incantation, no evocation, no protection. They'll just stare it down somehow. with not even a materia component. But I've seen baby witches go the other direction and only focus on the materia and kind of forego the spirit to it. And then those are the ones, oh man, I want to give them a hug, a noogie, and a cup of cocoa. Because it's like, oh, sweetie, I mean, you're not wrong. Quartz is good for purifying, but there are things you have to do with the quartz.
Right.
So it's refreshing to see someone walk that fine line in between. Because between the two, I tend more towards physical materia, yes, but more behavioral materia is something I really enjoy. The mantras, the energy work, the verbal evocations, because it's just badass when you're just, chanting and evoking passionately in Latin.
Oh, really is.
Oh, it's so much fun. And it keeps the neighbors quiet too. So what magical plans do you have for, let's say, the next year that you are open to discussing, that you're not bound by oath for or anything?
Well, we are finishing up this Jason Miller course that we're both going through.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be another one after that I will be taking. And I'm not sure how long that one is yet. I don't know if it's the 7 months, but that is definitely going to be within my next year.
Yeah, the only thing I can say on that is you're going to love level 3.
Oh, yeah. Very much looking forward to that.
Oh, excuse me, level 2, my bad. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot going on with Hearth Wisdom Store. There's a lot of events that are coming up. There's a lot of work that's going to be done in preparation for those. And so that's going to be taking up a large part of my time.
Excellent. Now, here's an interesting thing and how I like your approach. Now, I've got a piece coming up on why financial magic usually doesn't work, but the too long didn't read. I think the way that your approach goes from what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, you've gotten really, really good at attaching your magic to manifestable roots. And that's why financial magic goes wrong so many times, because goofballs who don't know better, and I mean that lovingly, I'm not trying to be a dick, but goofballs who will light a candle, say a prayer, and just wait for money to arrive get inevitably disappointed. But I think one of the really great things that you do about being a professional witch is that profession allows so many different avenues for manifestation.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is fantastic. You've got your Stitch Witchery business you do on the side, which if you want to say your Instagram handle right now, I'm going to pause for no reason at all.
You can find me on Instagram at Threads of Fate. Briss is my handle, and that's BRYS.
There we go. I mean, you've got that, you've got your business, you've got your everything that you do, you have something to attach your magic to, as opposed to just kind of throwing it out into the world and hoping for the best.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you have to kind of help yourself along. Number one, because magic without anything to back it up is not much magic at all. And number two, it's just going to happen so much faster if you help it.
Yes.
You have to open a door for it to come through. Otherwise, it might bust something up that you don't want it to.
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
One of my, actually, this is kind of, I don't know if it's a great comparison, but it's what came to mind. Whenever I am, showing someone a money candle, one of the ones that we do at the store, They come with a little petition paper on top, and those petition papers are to write out exactly what you want to happen. And I always tell them, especially in terms of money magic, always specify where you want it to come from and with no harm to anyone and yada, yada. Otherwise, maybe you wreck your car next week and get a $5,000 insurance check, but now you're out wheels and maybe you got hurt, maybe they got hurt, and now you're in a lot of trouble. So you want to kind of cover yourself, and you want to make sure that it's coming from where you want it to come from, just easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to consider it as if magic is a sometimes willful horse.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can just let the horse run around and do whatever it wants. And perhaps when it's hungry, it'll simply graze, or perhaps it'll run off and you'll never see it again. But if you put a bridle on it and you guide it,
you make a relationship with it.
Exactly. Yeah. It is much more likely to go where you want it to go.
Yep.
And whatever metaphor anyone out there wants to use it. Remember that the framework you operate in is crucial, as long as you put the work into establishing that frame. So let's talk a little bit about Hearth Wisdom Store. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Because, age before beauty, as they say. Hearth Wisdom Store, when I first went into it, was very clearly run by skillful people. The palpable aura in that place is impressive. And if you happen to be in the area or find it online at
hearthwisdomstore.com,
check it out, definitely. But it is a place of very serious workings. And you can feel it in the air. Now, I don't know what they do. It's not my business to ask. It's no one's business to tell. But Tenebrys, if you would be so kind, tell us how Hearth Wisdom Store came to be.
So from my understanding, we're not necessarily the oldest store in the Metroplex, but we are the biggest metaphysical store. Myra Slaybaugh, excuse me, decided that she needed a pagan community in the area, and there wasn't one. And so she and her husband, Myra and Terry Slaybaugh, just kind of decided that they were going to open up a witchy metaphysical store, and just kind of, if you build it, they will come, and just have started building this community around a store where now we have public rituals, we have classes almost every weekend. We have a lot of recorded material online. We have subscription boxes. We, have international shipping. And this year we have started the Texas Witches Ball, which is going to be a multi-event per year. Several events of just fun and dancing and drink and vendors and just all of the wonderful witchy madness.
Excellent. And that is, I remember running or being one of the doormen / security people at that last ball there. Which one was
the
it?
Hexes and Hearts.
Hexes and Hearts, right? The Valentine's Day ball. And it very much carries over when you get enough pagans and workers and magically inclined people into one area. It's a very surreal and powerful experience. And that, I think, is one of the things that you've got in spades over at Hearth Wisdom. So what are the pros? Actually, let's do a pro and con. What are the pros of working at a professional witch shop?
By far my favorite thing is that I get to do magic every day and I get paid for it. That's kind of cool.
No humble brag there at all.
Sorry, not sorry. But also the people that I get to meet, that team up there has really become, a family to me in ways that I have never had before. They are loving, they are accepting, they are well practiced, they are knowledgeable and intelligent people, very helpful. And we all genuinely get along with each other. We're always there to help each other and, just work with each other in whatever ways need to happen to make everything run smoothly. And I've never experienced a team that works as well together as who we have right now.
Mhm.
So, just having that close bond, with a group of skilled witches is completely amazing. Being able to help the community on a daily basis find their spiritual path and, help educate them to help them grow and overcome whatever issue that they come in with. Just being able to make a difference and be able to see that difference, just all of it is completely amazing and fulfilling.
Excellent. And that is something I've noticed is the close bond that you have with people there. That was one of the things that really made me feel a lot more comfortable there as well. Because while there is obviously the sales and retail element, of course, there's a type of connection that the people there tend to make with at least with their knowledgeable client base. I've seen some of the goofballs come in. We'll come back to the goofballs in a moment. You cannot run a metaphysical shop without goofballs.
Oh, goodness, no.
But, everyone has their place, and I love those people too in their own way. What are the cons? What are the drawbacks of working at a professional witch shop in Texas, for example?
I'm really going to have to think hard on this one. I mean, the retail aspect of it can get a little bit draining sometimes. And probably more so in a metaphysical shop than any other, you're going to notice the energy vampires, and so you have to really learn how to, beef up your personal protections and strengthen those guards that you carry around every day so that you're not just going home completely drained at the end of it. And granted, I mean, I have done the work and I no longer get that, but every once in a while, you have an off day and then somebody comes in that just sucks in all of your attention. And I'm happy to give it, but it can still be a lot sometimes.
Incredibly. Yeah. And it is kind of funny, even being attached tangentially to projects like that. You tend to find those folk in we get a fair number of those in hypnosis and in therapeutic circles as well.
And then, of course, you have the people who come in with a problem that you just can't solve, and that sucks.
Yeah. And then you have to outsource or, fortunately, I mean, I think it's pretty fortunate and likely someone with a capital S is kind of stepping in. And I've noticed that a number of healthcare professionals and alternative healthcare professionals, such as myself, tend to get attached to Hearth Wisdom. I can think of at least one other social worker. And I think, there's a few other businesses with mental health capabilities attached to that. So that outsourcing capability is really, it's crucial.
Yeah, and we are building a strong network for things like that as well. So
excellent. Yeah. And it's really good to see people step up and actually move into the magical renaissance as as the world moves closer and closer to, religious autocracy. Unfortunately, it's going to be even more and more important for us to be more close-knit. But we're not going to make this political because that's not my vibe. So those are the pros and those are the cons. What can you tell me is the kookiest story to ever happen to you working at a professional witch shop? I see that look on your face.
Oh, goodness. I mean, a fair bit of strangeness happens at a witch shop. So, it becomes a matter of, well, what can I talk about and what really was the craziest? Because crazy just becomes kind of a way of life when you work at a place like Hearth Wisdom Store. Goodness.
It's kind of funny because I can tell from the look on your face, you're parsing what you can and cannot say. And that always implies that there are a large number of goofy things that have happened.
I mean, we get people in all the time, asking for, things that I have never heard of. things that they have learned on Witch Talk. And, people asking me, is it true that if you throw rose quartz in somebody's car, they'll become obsessed with you or things like that? No, no, don't do that.
You are literally just giving someone a shiny rock.
Right.
That is all you are doing.
And that we get people coming in asking if we can do exorcisms or cast a spell for them or all manner of things. The answer is no, we don't do that, but we can teach you at least the basic skills. And sometimes people don't like to hear that. So it can be interesting, trying to explain to them that, while we are professional witches, we are not exorcists. We encourage you to do the magic yourself because it will be more effective, things like that.
And you pick up a skill.
And
that was a very interesting thing in that, just kind of being in that network occasionally. Here in Texas, it's an interesting vibe, and where pagans are very well connected, and we can pass work, if you want to call it work, off to each other, or consulting. This person thinks they have a dybbuk chasing them, or this person is afraid they may have summoned something, and you can actually rely on knowledgeable people in some circumstances to step in. But that said, it is kind of a fascinating thought that somebody can, walk into essentially a retail store, mind you, an amazing metaphysical shop with very knowledgeable people, but you can still walk up to a counter and say something like, I would like a value meal exorcism number 1, and still think you're going to get what you're looking for. It is kind of a fascinating thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember, I'll share a Hearth Wisdom story. I do remember being in there at one point and seeing that shadow figure following someone about.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's abnormal. So I just kind of pulled the lady aside and did the old, you don't know me, I don't know you, but just so you know, you got a friend hanging out.
Yeah.
Was it you that she asked for my number later, or?
I don't remember. It was over a year ago now.
Yeah, it was a while back, but I remember getting her voicemail later saying, thank you so much. It's gone now, and all this and all that. But it's just fascinating to be into a place that seems to some degree or other, at least focus synchronicity like that, which I think is amazing.
One of my favorite parts, I think, lately is, I kind of liken the store sometimes to Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
I can see that.
Because, we have so much energy moving around there on a daily basis, and very, very recently, for instance, we all took a team trip out to Sherwood. As a team bonding experience. We shut down the shop for the entire weekend so we could all go out and play.
Just to clarify, here in these parts, Sherwood is a Renaissance festival. She's not saying everyone went out to England.
Sorry, yes, Sherwood Renaissance Festival. But when we got back, I am the one who opens the store every morning, and I noticed that there were some books that had fallen over that were leaning completely the opposite direction. There were some tarot decks that had jumped off of the shelf onto the floor, and I had to do a little bit of tidying up because the store spirits sometimes get a little bit rowdy and miss us and things like that. And so there, it's very much a living energy to the store that if you're not expecting can be a little bit startling, but it's a lot of fun.
Even when you're expecting it too. And this is true of any place that has a large tradition of focused work around it. On that note, funny enough, if Hearth Wisdom ever moves to a different location, good luck to anyone who tries to operate in that location.
I know.
That's going to be fun.
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I wonder about our past locations and how they're doing.
But I know on more than one occasion, I've seen some of the store spirits out of the old corner of the eye phenomenon. And I know at least one of them knows my name now. Because I was waiting when that book dropped, and I was waiting just before you guys opened. Yeah, I was hearing it, Nick, like just right in my ear.
That's
and I was
interesting.
Like, what? I don't know which one you are.
You never told me that.
Yeah, no, it was there. And I'm like, okay, here we go. But yeah, that's That's an interesting little thing.
Yeah.
So as far as working in any location, and before actually, I'm going to go off on a tangent real fast here. It sounds like we're doing an advertisement for Hearth Wisdom. And of course, I'll put the link and all that stuff down below because they're friends and they're good people. But it's an important thing, I think, for baby witches to come to an understanding that do not mistake the vehicle for the magic. And what I mean by that is Hearth Wisdom, as amazing as it is a place you go to access the magic. And there is a magic to it itself. But always remember that whatever it is you're doing, wherever it is you're going, whether it is a temple, a church, a coven spot, a clearing, a graveyard in the middle of the night, if so, let me know how that goes.
Please, I want to come too.
Yeah. Always remember the places that you go to, the things that you do, the spirits that you work with. This is all part of a complex system. Don't overly invest your belief in your power in that one portion of it. It's all part of a whole thing that begins and often ends with you. So in that sense, one of the mistakes I made when I was first exploring was thinking that only particular places had particular power.
Mm.
And while some places do have particular power, that is something that you can actually access within certain limitations as local spirit powers. For example, there was a spot in Monterey, California, where anyone who has been in Monterey for a while, and if any of my Monterey friends are listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm not going to say where it is because I don't want people traipsing around there. But it was a place you just didn't go at night unless you were, golf and dumb.
Okay.
And of course, me and my friends would poke around there.
I love the qualifier and dumb. Thank
dumb.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Young Nick was not old Nick. So there are places that have powers to it, and those powers attract certain things. Now, here's the kicker, baby witches. There's nothing stopping you from making one. Everyone likes to think, I have to go to this place or that place. No, you don't have to. You can make one. If you operate in a framework of this world and that world, make the walls thin. Be prepared. That's going to make it a lot easier for someone to see up and say hello. But you can absolutely do that. It's a very interesting thing to do. Not necessarily something you would want to do on your own if you're first learning, but it is a concept you should play with as the years go by. So as far as practical magic goes, Tenebrys, what tips would you give baby witches?
First, read as much as you can. Do your research. One of the most important things that you can learn as a baby witch, as a new pagan or witch or whatever you call yourself, is protection. Especially if you decide that you want to start working with spirits and things like that, you are going to want to have strong defenses. Because while, yes, there are some benevolent ones, they're not human and they don't see things the way we do. And so they are not going to have the same viewpoints of what is safe and what is dangerous. They just are. So definitely look into protection as, probably one of your first areas. But read as much as you can. Get in touch with a local group of pagans or practitioners if it's available. There's plenty of groups on Facebook and social media that are great resources, places where you can ask questions and find people of like-mindedness. And write down what you do. A lot of good magic looks like good science in the documentation process. Keep a journal of what you do so that you can remember what works. That's something that I didn't pick up for probably too long.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, that is important. And the only thing I would add on to that is practice your skills at aggregating data. And by that, I mean, understand that not everything you read where people are presenting themselves as experts is anything like accurate.
Oh, absolutely. Especially
Yeah.
if you're Googling, find at least 3 or 4
Yeah.
sources that agree with each other before you try
Yeah,
anything.
absolutely. There are crazes on the internet right now. Reddit is just riddled with this type of chicanery where people would do random dumb things hoping for a supernatural response. Now the problem is most of the time people are just wasting their time. But every so often you might get something's attention. And if you're not ready for that, then you find out you're the person who has its attention and you're not ready for it. So aggregate your data, run it past verifiable sources. Always do that. I mean, you wouldn't, hopefully you wouldn't try and download recipes for making new weed killers for your yard and your kitchen without actually checking out for police. For God's sakes, don't do that. Was the first thing that came to mind. But you wouldn't mess with a recipe, for example, without vetting it first, hopefully. This is that same mentality to get into. So if we were to put together a one trick list, what magical trick would you give to a baby witch to get them on the start?
Ooh, that's a good question. One trick.
One trick that would be most useful to the beginner practitioner. Well, if you take a bottle and you put someone's name in it, wait, never mind.
Hey, hold on.
Never mind. That's the advanced class.
Oh, goodness. Honestly, it's not really much of a trick. Just develop a love of learning.
Yeah. That by itself will change your vibration.
Whether or not you have a natural inclination towards magic or you have to cultivate that, anything is going to be helped as long as you can learn the skills.
Yeah, I like that. The only thing I would add on to that, while the temptation is to throw spells out there, of course, and spell ideas, I want to encourage people to develop those on their own. But attach to what you just said to the understanding that nothing comes immediately. I mean, you've got the rest of your life and probably your lives after that, if you believe in such a thing, to continue practicing. Be patient. Patience is just like in personal training, because amongst other things, I'm also a personal trainer. Why not? Right? The most difficult part in building anything, whether it is your mind, your spirit, your body, is patience.
Yes.
And if you are an impatient witch, wizard, magician, sorcerer, whatever, you are going to get hurt.
You do half-ass spells, you get half-ass results.
Exactly. Or sometimes you get a foot in the ass.
Yeah, sometimes.
How else can we work the word ass into this? All right. What is the last warning you would give to baby witches about practicing the art? It's kind of a weird question.
It is. And the only answer that's coming to mind at the moment is kind of more directed towards the gray spectrum, in that if you wouldn't do it in a mundane method, don't use magic.
Yes. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. And that is so applicable when you start wandering into compelling magic or outright hexes. Now, to clarify on that, I can't speak for Tenebrys, but I am not anti-black magic. I am anti-reckless and impulsive black magic.
I am. I feel comfortable saying I am a self-professed gray witch and an active practitioner.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, sometimes people need their teeth kicked in. There's no way around that. Sometimes somebody chooses to be an asshole and abuse their power in such a way that they have a certain comeuppance coming. That said, there are distinct repercussions to doing that inadequately. So, yeah, definitely, if you wouldn't walk up and sock somebody in the face over something they did, don't cast a spell for it. If you refuse to work a job for money, don't rely on financial magic. I guarantee you are not going to get long-term results if you're in that mentality. And I'll cover this more in the financial magic thing that's coming up next, sometime this coming week. I haven't decided on the release date yet. Financial magic will, as an example, normally manifest as opportunities or ideas. It won't really drop money from the sky on you, with a few rare exceptions.
Right.
Um,
I mean, even if you do a spell, let me win the lottery, you still have to go buy the ticket.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that old joke about, what was it? Sean O'Connery kept praying for, dear Lord, let me win the lottery, for months and months. And finally, in the divine vision he received was, Sean, meet me halfway and buy a ticket. Yeah. So yeah, that is super, super important. So we'll go ahead and we will close out on the second interview of Mind, Magic, and Mayhem. And Tenebrys, do you have any closing words, advice, snarky remarks, or loving sarcasm for anyone at home right now?
Well, now that you've put me on the spot, no.
Okay, where can people find you?
Thank you for having me, though.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Threads of Fate Briss, or at the Gothic Unicorn, separated by periods. Those are my business and personal accounts, which you are welcome to check out. Also check out Hearth Wisdom Store on Facebook. All of our events are going to be posted there, and there's something just about every weekend.
Yeah, and that is no exaggeration. This is one of the few places I've seen, metaphysically wise, that is continually growing as well. And the fact that you can thrive in an environment that is at times openly hostile to our point of view, as Texas can be, is a beautiful and amazing thing.
In fact, we've got just one last thing. We've got a big event coming up in June. The Midsummer Night soiree is going to be Shakespeare, fairy themed, just kind of witchy party. There'll be a silk dancer and a fashion show and all kinds of really fun stuff, which details you can find on the Facebook page.
Excellent. So everyone be sure and check that out. And I am going to say thank you once again for giving us some of your time, and thank Tenebrys for coming in and saying hey. And I do hope that the information we give you is of some use. And of course, I'd like to encourage you to hit like, subscribe, and the normal YouTube shenanigans there. It does help us out quite a bit. And if you want to practice your magic on probability manipulation, mess with the YouTube AI and boost my algorithms. I want to encourage that as well, and call it magic and see if I can get away with it. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and say good night, good day, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Bye.
Bye.